Hello, my brilliant students. Welcome. If you are getting ready for your WAEC, NECO, or JAMB exams, then you know that ecology is a huge deal. Today, we're going to break down a topic that the examiners absolutely love: aquatic and terrestrial habitats. Let's make sure you walk into that exam hall ready to get every single mark. Okay? Let's start with a simple question to get our brains working. Think about it. Why can a fish, say a tilapia, live perfectly happy in the Niger River, but the second it's on the riverbank, it can't survive? The answer to that simple question holds the key to everything we're going to learn today. It's all about adaptation to a specific habitat. You know, the best thing about this topic is that it comes up in exams all the time. So we're going to focus on exactly what you need to know, the key points, so you can answer any question with total confidence. Here is our game plan for today. And guess what? This is taken straight from your official syllabus, so you know you are learning exactly what you need to. We'll define habitats, we'll look at life in water versus life on land, and most importantly, we will explore the amazing adaptations of organisms. Quick update for JAMB candidates: you can purchase your JAMB e-pin directly on ExamKP.com. You'll also get access to practice JAMB questions to prepare effectively. Visit ExamKP.com to get started. Now, let's continue. First up, we're taking a deep dive, literally. We're jumping into the world of aquatic habitats. We're going to see what it really takes for an organism to call a river, a pond, or even the massive ocean its home. So, before we go any further, what exactly do we mean by habitat? Well, the simplest way to think about it is as an organism's address. It's its natural home. It's the one place that gives it everything it needs to live: food, shelter, and the right conditions to reproduce and survive. The habitat basically shapes the life of the organism. So, what makes living in water so unique? Well, for one, the medium is water, and water gives you buoyancy, which is a kind of lift. This means organisms don't need heavy skeletons for support. But it's not all easy. There's a big challenge. Oxygen is limited, and the deeper you go, the less light there is. On the plus side, though, the temperature in water is way more stable than on land. Just think about our own massive Niger-Benue River system or the incredible mangrove swamps in the Niger Delta. Okay, so knowing those conditions, how on earth do plants manage to live in water? We call them hydrophytes. They can't be built like the plants on land, so they must have some pretty special tricks up their sleeves, right? And this is where it gets really clever. These plants have special tissues called parenchyma. They're full of air spaces that help them float and also move oxygen around. So smart. You've seen water lilies, right? Their leaves are broad and flat to catch as much sunlight as possible on the surface. And think about it, since they're literally surrounded by water, they don't need big, strong roots or tough xylem for support. And a waxy cuticle to stop water loss? No need. They have all the water they could want. So that covers the plants. But what about the animals? I mean, a fish is built very differently from a goat, right? So how are they so perfectly designed for a life spent in water? For animals, it's all about breathing, moving, and keeping their bodies in balance. Most, of course, use gills to pull oxygen right out of the water. Their bodies are streamlined, shaped like a torpedo, to cut through the water with fins for steering. Fish also have this amazing organ called a swim bladder. It's like a little balloon inside them that they can fill with air to go up or empty to go down. And so important is osmoregulation. That's the fancy word for how they control the salt and water inside their bodies, which is a huge challenge. All right, let's step out of the water, shake ourselves dry, and plant our feet firmly on the ground. We are now moving to terrestrial habitats. And out here, the rules of the game change completely. Life on land is a whole different story. The medium is air, and air provides almost no support. So, problem number one is gravity. Plants need strong stems, and animals need strong skeletons. But maybe the biggest challenge of all is the constant danger of drying out. We call this desiccation. Water can be very hard to find, and the temperatures, they can swing from boiling hot during the day to cold at night. Plus, the soil itself, its texture, its pH is absolutely crucial for survival. And here in Nigeria, we see a beautiful example of these different land habitats. Down south, you have the wet, dense tropical rainforest. As you travel up through the country, you get to the Guinea and Sudan savannas with their open grasslands. And then way up in the far north, you reach the dry Sahel region. Each one has its own unique set of rules for survival. Okay, let's zoom in on that number one problem for land life: losing water. How do plants, especially the ones in really dry places like the savanna, we call them xerophytes, how do they survive without just shriveling up and dying? These xerophytes have an amazing toolkit to save water. They have a really thick, waxy cuticle that acts like a waterproof jacket. Their stomata, the little pores they breathe through, are often hidden away in little pits to trap moist air. Many, like a cactus, have changed their leaves into spines. Why? To reduce the surface area so less water evaporates. Many can have super deep roots that go way down to find water. And some are succulents, meaning they store water in their own fleshy stems and leaves. And the animals on land are just as adapted. They've got lungs to breathe air, they have strong limbs to hold themselves up and move around against gravity. To save water, think about the waterproof scales on a lizard or the skin and fur on a mammal. But don't forget their behavior. That's a huge adaptation. Many animals are nocturnal. They only come out at night when it's cool. And some can even go into a dormant state, like estivation, to survive a long drought. Okay, everybody, I need you to pay close attention. If there is one slide you need to screenshot, memorize, or write down, it's this one. This comparison table is pure gold for your exams. They love asking you to compare and contrast, so let's nail it down. In water, you have buoyancy. On land, you need support. Water is everywhere in an aquatic habitat. On land, it's often scarce. Breathing happens with gills in water, but lungs on land. And temperature is stable in water, but goes to extremes on land. Please master this table. All right, the theory is done. Now for the really important part. Let's apply what we've learned to some real past questions from JAMB and see how we can secure those marks. Okay, here's our first one. One adaptation shown by hydrophytes in freshwater habitats is the A. Waxy cuticle on shoot surface, B. Poor development of roots and xylem tissues, C. Leaves reduced to spines, D. Well-developed roots and supporting system. Let's think this through. So how do we tackle this? First, identify the key word, hydrophytes. We know that means water plants. Now, what's life like for a water plant? Does it need to save water? No. So A, waxy cuticle, is wrong. Does it live in a dry place? No. So C, leaves reduced to spines, is wrong. Does it need strong roots to hold it up? No, the water does that. So D is wrong. This is how you use elimination. That leaves only one logical answer. And the correct answer is, of course, B. Because they get support from the water and are surrounded by it, they simply don't need to waste energy building strong roots and xylem. It's a perfect example of adapting to your environment. Let's try another. This one tests if you know your specific terms. In a typical freshwater habitat, the edge of the stream or pond constitutes the A. Tidal zone, B. Intertidal zone, C. Littoral zone, D. Euphotic zone. Now, I'm going to give you a huge pro tip right here. Read the question carefully. It says freshwater. The words tidal and intertidal are only, and I mean only, used for marine habitats, the ocean where you have tides. So just by knowing that one fact, you can immediately eliminate options A and B. It's a fantastic exam trick. So the correct answer has to be C. The littoral zone is the correct biological term for that shallow, sunny edge of a lake or pond where you see plants growing with their roots in the soil. That's the definition you need to know. Okay, one last one. This question connects your biology knowledge to the geography of our own country, Nigeria. The mangrove swamp in Nigeria is restricted to the A. Sahel savanna, B. Sudan savanna, C. Guinea savanna, D. Tropical rainforest coastal areas. And the answer is D. You have to think, what do mangroves need? They need a mix of salt and fresh water. We call that brackish water. And they need a lot of rain. Where in Nigeria do you find that? Only along the coast, in places like the Niger Delta, which are part of our tropical rainforest biome. They would never survive in the dry savannas up north.
You all did fantastic work. We've gone through the concepts, we've practiced with real questions. Now let's wrap it all up and lock in the most important points with some top tips you can take straight into the exam. So let's recap. What do you absolutely have to remember? 1. A habitat is an organism's home address. 2. In water, adaptations are all about buoyancy, breathing, and light. 3. On land, it's about support, saving water, and handling temperature changes. And 4. The golden rule. Always connect an adaptation to the problem it solves in the environment. And here are your exam hacks. First, please learn to spell the key terms correctly. Second, when a question asks you to explain, link the structure to the function. Don't just say a fish has a streamlined body. Say it has a streamlined body in order to reduce friction in water. That's where the marks are. Use Nigerian examples when you can, and I'll say it again. Master that comparison table. Remember this as you study. Your goal isn't just to cram facts, it's to understand the why. Once you understand why things are the way they are in nature, you can answer any question they throw at you. Master the concepts, and you will absolutely conquer your exams. If you found this biology lesson helpful, please like this video, share it with your classmates and friends who are also preparing for WAEC, NECO, or JAMB, and subscribe to our YouTube channel right now so you don't miss the next topic. Also visit www.examkp.com for thousands of free practice questions and answers. Let's smash these exams together.